Hello, everyone. My name is AJ Kuftik, and I'm a digital product strategist with Expedient. I'm very, very glad that you've joined me today, along with my counterpart, Mike Gruccio, who's a principal technologist from Expedient as well. And today we're going to introduce you to Expedient Operations Control. Real quick housekeeping note, though. If you have any questions, please enter those down here-ish into the Q&A panel. That helps us keep track of all the questions, make sure you answer them. This is your opportunity to pick our brains about pretty much anything, really. It doesn't have to just be operations control. You can talk about EEC, multi-cloud, security, what's my favorite kind of bread, anything really. And if you ask a question, you're entered to win a prize. That prize today is a $50 Amazon gift card. And all of this is being recorded. You'll get a link in your email afterwards. You can also find this recording on go.expedient.com/webinar replay, youtube.com/expedient, instagram.com/_expedient, and linkedin.com/company/expedient. Go ahead and give us a like, follow, subscribe on all of those various social medias. We greatly appreciate that. For those of you who are new to Expedient, we started in 2001 in co-location. Today, we have 12 data centers in 8 cities, more to come. We also have virtual co-location that we started in 2007. That's evolved into our enterprise cloud, but we've been doing virtual hosting since 2007. That's the same year Amazon started EC2, so we've been in the cloud game just as long as AWS. In 2015, we released push-button DR to provide DR as a service for our customers and solve the problems of disaster recovery. Today, that's the fastest failover in the industry with full transparent network failover. In 2018, we released our enterprise cloud to revamp and give a new VMware-powered cloud for our customers to enable that cloud operating model without any of the refactoring. And in 2020, we released Cloud Native, our enterprise cloud native platform with fully managed Kubernetes, persistent container storage, and application observability to power those next generation applications along with your legacy and current applications all under one roof. And this year, we've been focusing a lot on multi-cloud. And when we start talking about the cloud journey, we kind of get to the point where it takes time from people. And I have to ask the question here, what's the value of your time? What does that actually mean? I know that when I think about things in my life and what I'm good at and what I'm not very good at, I think about things like plumbing work. I could probably go figure it out, but it's going to take me a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of very foul language in my basement to try and fix a plumbing problem in my house versus letting the professionals handle that and do it right the first time. And when I think back on my time in IT, outside of what I do today at Expedient, I think back to my admin days when I was day in, day out, working on building platforms, managing them, figuring out what the future state was. And if I had to kind of build a pie chart of my time, it looked like this. Most of my time was spent on break fix because things go bump. And we have to figure out what those problems are, right? Did the network switch go down? Did my server go down? Did my host go down? Did my storage fail? Is there some sort of bug in that code or inside of that sort of world that's causing this problem? And that was the majority of my time as an admin. About a quarter of my time was dedicated to patching. And that's not just operating system level patching. That's ESX patching, that's SQL patching, that's storage, that's, if you're using any sort of, network switching or network infrastructure, patching that environment as well. And so all of this was spent around building all the time and writing all the change controls and doing all the things that we needed to do to make patching happen. And then we had to plan upgrades. How do I get from server 2008 to server 2016? How do I get from RHEL 5 to RHEL 7, ESX 6.7 to vSphere 7? How do I do all of these sorts of things? I spent all this time doing all these things to keep the lights on. And then I had this real tiny sliver of actually solving business problems. What is it that we really do? What are we trying to do in IT? Are we here to just keep the lights on? Are we trying to do cool things and solve the problems of the business and make sure that we make a ton of money, right? That's kind of the point, right? And so the common refrain that I had and that many of my compatriots had over the course of my career is anytime we were asked, how do we solve this business problem? How do we make this better? How do we automate? How do we do things that would benefit ourselves? We just don't have time for that. And we generally don't. All of the time that you're spending on break fix, on patching, on upgrades, all of that is just absolutely draining that time away from things that you could be doing. So let's fix that. And we start with what I call the blame game. And when we think about the blame game, we have to start with where blame comes from, and that's problems, right? Problems happen. Things go down, things go bump in the night through nobody's specific fault, but things have a problem. Bugs happen, cables go bad, those sorts of things, and problems happen. And what's the first thing that everybody does the moment a problem happens? The Sev1 ticket goes out, the P1 ticket goes out, and everybody logs in, they VPN in, and they go in to try and get to their admin consoles or their monitoring tools or whatever, so they can start troubleshooting. And where's the problem? And the first thing that I've found in my career is that most people want to figure out if it's not them. Not if that's my problem, but as long as it's not my problem. Server side says, oh, no, servers are fine. Our servers are up. We just can't get to this communication. We can't get to this file server. It's a network problem. And the network team says, no, the network's fine. You can get from point A to point B. It's probably a DNS problem. It's always DNS. But let's pretend that it's not. And we try to troubleshoot this problem down, and no one ever wants to take the blame because they're afraid of what will happen when the blame hits them. And so we turn into finger pointing. Some of you may have been in an office or a conference room of some sort and seen this, right? Everybody's pointing the finger at each other. Whose problem is it? It's not mine, it's not mine, it's not mine. But why is that? Why does this finger pointing even happen in the first place? It's because we don't have a central view of anything. Most monitoring tools look like this. In fact, your NOC at work probably looks like this. Your SOC also probably looks like this. 8 different views of 8 different systems, all disparate from one another. They don't contain the same data. The storage monitoring tool doesn't match the server monitoring tool, doesn't match the network monitoring tool, doesn't match the database monitoring tool, doesn't match the app monitoring tool, because they're all separate places with separate individual things. And so the finger pointing is really caused by timestamps. How do I say that my server went down at 104.11 and the network port goes offline at 104.25 and not blame the network? Because I'm saying, or not blame my server, because the network says, no, I went down after you went down. So it couldn't be me. But in real life, if those times were synced, they might be flipped around. And the network port went offline first, and then the server went down. And so it makes it almost impossible to actually correlate events across our systems. So with operations control, we start by fixing break fix. And we start with monitoring. What we can do is pull in from all of these disparate sources. I can pull in from storage, network, server, database, application monitoring, and pull all of those into a central location and get deep visibility into my performance and my availability of my platforms. This is a massive upgrade from I have Cacti for network and Storm for Windows and Satellite for Red Hat and VROPS for my VMware environment. I have one platform to have all of that data stream into so I can have a holistic view of my environment. We also have the ability to bring logs into this. Most of the monitoring tools don't consider logging. Logging goes into Splunk. Logging goes into a log management tool, which is separate from your performance management that's trying to pull live data off of the endpoint. And so I don't have a true holistic view, and I can't find problems before they start. Your logs will tell you when, hey, I'm having trouble writing to this disk. I'm having trouble getting to this network. Oh, it's back. And as long as that's still up, most people don't notice. And it's only when it happens and then it goes down and someone looks at the logs and says, hey, this has been happening for like 2 weeks. Why didn't we do anything about this? That's when the trouble really starts and the blame game gets real fun. So by being able to bring logging and integrate that to my monitoring, my actual data streaming off of my machines, it gives me a true holistic view of my environment and helps surface problems before they even start. I also have the ability to correlate events across sources. So when I see a problem on the storage side and I see a problem on my server side, and it happens at the same time, I can line that up and find where the problem is, and I can troubleshoot that problem faster. So by doing these capabilities inside of our monitoring tool with operations control, you can surface problems faster and get back online before you even know it. But we also have to talk about one of the necessary evils of IT, which is patching. Patching is a pain in the butt. And that's because it's basic security hygiene. But nobody ever really wants to do it because it takes a lot of time to do it. It takes a lot of effort to do that. But what happens whenever there's a breach or an attack? The first thing that happens is, well, this server wasn't patched and that's how they got in. And everybody goes, you should have been patching all your things. So what we have to do is actually pull that back and be able to have a better security talk. And in order to do that, we have to patch more often. It's also a compliance requirement. High trust, NIST 853, and I'm forgetting the other one that I wanted to talk about. But those two in particular, the DISA-STIGs, that's the one, all have compliance requirements on patching in a timely manner. I know the DISA-STIG has 30 days from Windows patch comes out to on your machine. So that can be a very scary prospect, especially when it happens every single month. And that's because patching is an evening and weekend destroyer. This is something that eats your time and it eats your personal time. And there's very rarely an opportunity for you to say, you know what, I'm patching this weekend, so I'm not working on Friday, right? There's still work to be done on Friday. And oh, by the way, you still have to patch on the weekend. So how do we make patching better? Well, we have to think about how patching really works. Most patching is like cruise control. You set it and you forget it. Most of the time, it's just automatic. Patch goes on the machine, you reboot, the machine comes back up, everything's fine. But when it isn't, it really isn't. It's, I need this database to be up before this app comes up, and this service needs to be up before this reporting system comes up, and the reporting system needs to be up before the website comes up, or else everything's wrong and we got to start all over from the beginning. And it leads to a lot of institutional knowledge. Somebody knows the right key to turn and the right button to push at the same time in order to actually bring this application back online. And so it leads to a lot of manual effort as part of patching. So how do we fix that? We start by coding institutional knowledge. And that starts with things like Ansible playbooks. I have the ability using Ansible to set my services and check statuses of services before I bring them back online or as part of doing the patching. So I can turn a service off and then patch that machine so it goes down cleanly and we have less problems on the way out. We can also do things like service turn down and shut the application down cleanly. This is something that a lot of people do manually as part of their patching processes, but we can do it in an automated fashion as part of an Ansible playbook. And we can also do status checking on the way back up to be able to say this service is online before I bring this next one online. And those capabilities all give us a very, very nice way to do all of the patching that we need to make sure that your system stays safe. And with Expedient Operations Control, we can bring all three of these together: the monitoring, the logging, the patching, along with a multi-100-person technical team to help do this for you and eliminate all of this work on your weekends and hand it off to people whose job it is to keep the lights on all the time. And I brought a friend with me. Mike Ruccio is here. Mike's going to give us a walkthrough and a demo of Operations Control and how we actually do this in practice. Mike.
Thanks, AJ. I'm going to go ahead and get my screen shared, and we can walk through the different pieces here.
Go ahead.
There we go.
Smooth.
So starting off, we're taking a look at kind of the default monitoring dashboard that you're going to have for any of your servers that are enrolled in Ops Control. So this is going to give you the high-level information that you care about for kind of just doing initial troubleshooting if you find out that there's a problem. It tells you there's your current CPU usage, current memory usage, your inbound and outbound traffic stats, if you're seeing packet loss, that kind of thing. And then does start going deeper for things like exactly which processors are using the CPU, what your disk I/O looks like, more detail and over time charts and graphs for what your network traffic is actually experiencing. So it really lets you get a very good idea of what's happening on an individual machine without ever having to log into it, and gives you a firm place to start off in your troubleshooting. In addition to this default dashboard that you get, you also can create kind of arbitrary dashboards for anything that you actually care about on a system. So an example of that is taking a look at this single server. We wanted to see sort of what the overall service state was for everything on that machine. So this gives you an idea of how much or how many unique services are actually running, the breakdown of each individual type of service, whether they're started or not. And then you can quickly come in here and say, go ahead and sort or change sorting here so you can see which services are running, that kind of thing. And it's very easy to create these dashboards for anything that you care about for your systems. So dashboards are great. But a lot of the time, you don't want to necessarily have someone staring at a screen the entire day, just watching for problems to happen. And you want to be able to set some conditions and then alert on those conditions. And that's where the alert configuration here comes in. Now, when you purchase Ops Control, you do get a set of about 15 alerts that we pre-configure that alert into our internal ticketing system that then get an expedient response. But if there are other things that you care about that maybe aren't part of the standard, CPU, memory, disk usage, maybe you want to see an alert when a specific server experiences high I/O weight because you know that means that it's has some problems with its SQL database, just from experience and sort of problems that you've had in the past. You can come in here and go ahead and create that specific alert for your system. So you can customize it to be extremely, extremely deep and extremely flexible. So in this case, we're looking at CPU usage, but this could be literally any metric of the several hundred that we're collecting on every server every few seconds. And anytime that actually trips, you're able to send an alert or configure an action, which is basically sending alert to an external system. Most of our customers we're finding are going to be expecting to use email. So this is going to send an email just through a mail relay with all of the relevant information that you actually care about on the alert. So it's going to give you the name of the alert. Context.group is actually which server is being alerting. And then there's a state involved. So you can see exactly whether it's a warning, an error, anything like that. And then the reason will actually break down the exact metrics that have gone over the limit. So in this case, it would say that CPU percentage is above 95%, and it's been that way for 5 minutes. And you have all that information to go in so you know exactly what's going on the machine before you even log in. In addition to email, though, you're also going to have options for things like Jira tickets, Microsoft Teams messages, if you'd like to be able to show up or just have a Teams channel and kind of take a chat ops approach to things. Same with Slack. It can also feed into ServiceNow if you use that for your internal ticketing system. And one of my favorites is the ability to feed that data into PagerDuty so that you don't have everyone getting a message every time there's a problem. You only have whoever's on your current escalation list within PagerDuty, and you can manage that list separately. So the people that need to be aware of problems are, and no one else is getting bothered.
I think one of the other key things here is that this is super customizable. And as you can see, it's based on Elastic. So you're only needing to use the things that you are actually monitoring. You don't have to go build the entire Elastic stack and all of these monitoring things. We're building it for you, all of this being fully managed by Expedient. And if you're an existing Expedient customer and you're looking at this, it's because we listened. We heard you loud and clear, and you wanted more customization. You wanted the ability to do all of the connectors and have these beautiful dashboards that we're showing you here. This is, if you're an OS management and monitoring customer, this is that next generation. And we listened very, very deeply to your feedback. And I think this is a really, really great way, even things like webhooks, to be able to take it beyond just existing connector types, being able to send that into maybe other ticketing systems beyond ServiceNow. I think is really, really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, AJ. So that sort of covers what we have in terms of Elastic, in terms of the monitoring functionality. One thing I do want to point out is that all of these things are great, but we are still going to be doing our typical monitoring efforts, just like we do with our monitoring and management product today. So that includes things, like I said, those basic alerts. So if your server's running low on disk space on the C drive, we're not just going to alert you about that. Someone is actually going to go ahead and log in, clear your temp files, take a look and run, a winter stat or a tree size report, let you know exactly what's consuming the disk, and then work with you to get that resolved if that's what makes the most sense and is easiest for you. So all of these things where you're able to kind of provide your own configuration are extensions of what we already do, and none of that goes away. So we still are taking over kind of that basic level of management and break fix support. The other interesting new thing that we're offering is a control panel for your servers. So this is going to give you a couple of things and gives us a couple of things as well. So from our side, we're using this service to go ahead, or this panel and console to go ahead and do things like deploy patches, deploy configuration changes in mass across all of our customers. If we ever need to make an update to our managed services offering, we would run that past you, make sure it's not going to create any issues, and then we can just go ahead and deploy that change out broadly. But importantly, this is also your portal to manage your servers regardless of where they sit. So this is connected to both our Expedient Enterprise Cloud as well as effectively any other cloud. So we support AWS, Azure, GCP, as well as on-prem, VMware, and Hyper-V. So you have just about anywhere your workloads are running, you'll be able to go ahead and have this same interface for managing them. And you get a couple of options here that are going to be really nice. So the first one, and one of the nicest, is just that you get a easy to access and consistent console, regardless of what platform you're on. So whether you're in Azure, AWS, or EC, you can get access to a VM console and actually just work there without having to jump through a lot of hoops, worry about how to expose RDP on the internet, anything like that. It just connects over the agent and you get your VM console. And it's of course going to be a little slow for me today.
And Mike, I think one of the bigger pieces there is that as part of having this consistent interface, we have the ability to manage from a single point, right? We've talked a lot about on a lot of our other existing, multi-cloud vision is to make things as consistent as possible from a security standpoint and an operations standpoint, so that you don't have to think about where this, agent lives, where this, VM lives, where this instance lives. You just manage it the same way you would have if it were sitting inside of your data center. And I think that's a really, really powerful message.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to apologize on this remote console. It looks like someone might be making a few changes in the background of my test environment because it does not.
Lab environments are lab environments, Mike.
Yeah.
People are going to break some stuff from time to time.
It happens. But yeah, you do have that console, and it is available, like I said, regardless of which cloud you're in. This is also going to let you do things like see what the history of things that have been deployed here are. So in this case, we had a couple of errors recently, applying a few changes, but we also had some successes where people were making changes to service status, deploying new routes. So right now, these are primarily things that Expedient's pushing out, but we are also open to customers providing their own tasks for it or that get run here. So effectively, if you create an Ansible playbook to solve a common problem, we can get that uploaded to the platform. And then anytime someone needs to go ahead and apply those changes or apply that configuration, you can click Actions, Run Workflow, and say in this case, we're going to add a Windows route. You go ahead and just apply or provide a little bit of information that you need here, and then hit execute, and it'll go ahead and directly push a route to that server. And there's an effectively unlimited number of workflows you can add, and those are typically Ansible playbooks, but it also supports PowerShell and Bash scripts. So you can really easily automate tasks and have an easy way of deploying that code out to machines, which really makes things much easier in terms of managing your automation footprint as you start to add new things.
I think one of the nice parts here is that this is also the platform that has cost control inside of it. So all of the instances that you're managing are right next to seeing all of your costs and all of your reporting that needs to go in around multi-cloud management there. So again, we are extending this multi-cloud vision all the way out, and operations control is just the next phase of that.
Exactly. And then you may have noticed here that we have a patch window defined. So this is effectively telling our platform that this server gets patched the Friday immediately after Patch Tuesday at midnight. So the actual formatting of the tag doesn't really matter. I'll show you how you actually configure that when you're deploying a server shortly. But the important thing here is that it's very easy to just go ahead and define when your servers get patched, and then we take care of that actual patching process. And like AJ was saying earlier, that doesn't have to just be a simple, all right, we're going to go ahead and deploy patches and reboot. We can add additional logic to that for specific servers for things like shutting down a service, then patching, then starting back up, pulling a server out of a load balancer, then patching it, restarting it, validating that it's good, adding it back, and then moving on to the next machine. So you can get really detailed with it and do things that you may not have been comfortable doing automatically before in this new platform much more flexibly. And the goal is for the vast majority of our customers, we expect to be able to patch their entire footprint, as long as they're willing to work with us to generate those playbooks and generate that process. So we can potentially save a ton of time and really save those weekends and save those evenings, so that you're not having to spend a bunch of your personal time patching. The other really nice thing here, especially since it works again across all of the different clouds, is the ability to just create a new instance straight from here and having a single interface to do that, regardless of whether you're deploying into EEC, on-prem, or one of the hyperscale clouds. So in this case, let's say that we're going to go with a Windows server. We'll give it a name. Define which version of Windows we want. So in this case, we'll say it's 2016. A size, so let's go with a 2 GB server. Make sure that we're using the correct storage policy. Define what network we're going to go ahead and deploy on. And then here's where we select the patch window. So we can actually create any arbitrary patch windows that you would like. But in this case, we have the first and second Sunday configured as options. So we'll pick that. And then we'll hit next. And since we want the server to be managed, we'll just add this add expedient management monitoring workflow. None of the other options need to be selected. We'll hit next and then complete. And what that does is it builds an entirely new server, deploys it from template, installs the required agents for monitoring, and gets everything configured for you so that it's manageable by Expedient. So as soon as you click complete, it deploys a server. It takes about 10 minutes, but once that's done, that server is monitored by Expedient. You'll get alerts for it anytime anything breaks. Any of your custom configured alerts that apply to it are automatically there and are automatically going to get action performed for them. And you really are done in terms of being able to use that server in a production environment. And that's everything that's actually needed there. And I do apologize for my dog in the background.
Okay, the dog is good. We appreciate dogs here on the Expedient webinars. We do have, I got 2 questions here, and then we will wrap up very quickly. The first one here is, I'm an existing Expedient customer. How do I gain access to these dashboards? Speak with your rep and SA, and we can start talking about what needs to happen if you're an existing customer on migrating in. But it's definitely something we want to start talking about with customers as soon as possible. We're very, very excited for this platform. So please, if you're an existing Expedient customer, reach out to your rep or SA. If you want a deeper dive demo, you can reach out to me or Mike to actually go through and really see what this product is capable of. And the last question here is, how do you migrate user accounts and file storage to the cloud if you have on-premises AD and file servers? Our cloud file storage platform can help an immense deal with that one. Being able to put a filer on-prem, store all the data in a cloud object platform, and then give you that ability to do file storage pretty much anywhere. And our identity management platform can connect to your on-premises AD and give you identity management anywhere through SAML tokens to give you all the things that you need from a centralized identity platform. And one last question that sneaks in right here before the end is, what is your favorite kind of bread? The answer is sourdough baguette, the pull-apart kind, the Epi baguette. Go ahead and Google that one. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. This has been very, very, very exciting. I'm very, very excited to hear, what we're doing now as part of our Expedient. As part of operations control, right? We have new monitoring, new logging, new patching capabilities, because we want to turn we don't have time for that into, what could I do with all this time? Join us next week. Mike will be back. I think Mike will be back next week to talk about how to avoid the IT landmines that cripple your cloud strategy. We're going to talk about how to avoid some of the pitfalls and start thinking more strategically and less tactically. And also, if you want to get your hands on any of these things, I've mentioned this in the past, you can reach out to me, aj.kuftick@expedient.com, or you can go to expedient.com/vmware-test-drive. You get access to 128 gigs of RAM, terabyte of storage, portal access to the environment, and Mike and I can help you get set up with the Expedient operations control, with multi-cloud management and cost control, so you can see the true power of our entire cloud difference strategy. And with that, thanks, Mike. And we will see everyone next week. Thanks.